Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Saturday, September 4th, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about President Donald Trump making his first endorsement of many in a very contentious Pennsylvania Senate race. Now, this state is going to be hotly contested in 2022. There's a governor election up, there are numerous House elections, and Donald Trump first speaks on this Senate election that is right in just about a year from now. Now, Sean Parnell actually spoke at the Republican National Convention, but doesn't otherwise have a really notable name across the nation. Sean Parnell really doesn't have much political experience. He ran for House in 2020 and lost against Connor Lamb, another candidate for Senate in 2022 from the state of Pennsylvania. He's running on the Democratic side though, but pretty much looking here, Donald Trump's endorsement is a very monumental one because many top Republicans seem to have been eyeing up this race, especially since it was an open race. Pat Toomey announced that he would be retiring from Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is one of those few states that is almost always consistently a swing state. Pennsylvania does go back and forth, went to Donald Trump in 2016, went to Joe Biden in 2020, both won by around a percentage point or less. So looking at Pennsylvania, absolutely one of the closest states, and Donald Trump has already made that determination as to who he wants to be the next person in line for Senate in this very contested Senate race. So you can see here that looking at the declared list amongst the Republicans who planned that have already announced their bids for the Senate in the state of Pennsylvania, you'll see here that Sean Parnell doesn't actually seem to be the most notable one. I mean, he was the nominee for the 17th district in 2020, but beyond that, there wasn't much else. Everett Stern ran for Senate in 2016, ran for Pennsylvania's 13th district in 2014. The U.S. ambassador to Denmark, who served through the entirety of Donald Trump's administration, Carla Sands, is also running for United States Senate. Yet Donald Trump chose Sean Parnell, someone who is described as an author and U.S. Army veteran, to be the next GOP nominee and the next United States Senator from the state of Pennsylvania. And then this also pretty much just cancels out anyone who is in the publicly expressed interest column or the potential column. Because Donald Trump holds around a 90% approval amongst Republicans in Pennsylvania, his endorsement will be that sole determination as to who wins the race in the primary. And in this case, Sean Parnell will absolutely win that primary following Donald Trump's endorsement. But you can see here that there are former U.S. secretaries of the Navy, U.S. ambassadors to Norway, people that were members, people that were representatives, people that are state senators, current U.S. representatives, whoever it might be amongst the potential list, amongst the publicly expressed interest list, and amongst the declared list, besides Sean Parnell, none of them have that major endorsement from the former president of the United States. And that endorsement, above all, is the key factor in winning a primary in today's modern age. You can see here that a bunch of people have received endorsements even from within Trump's administration. Michael Flynn, Sebastian Gorka, people that are well known, people that are prominent figures within the GOP. You can see here that only 5 people have endorsed Sean Parnell, and Donald Trump has been one of them. Donald Trump Jr. also endorsed him. So it's just interesting to see, to be completely honest with you, that Sean Parnell, he started out with 14% in terms of the primary polling data. I can tell you now, following Donald Trump's endorsement, that number will be at least 50% by the time the next poll runs around, because this endorsement is the key endorsement in every single contentious Senate race. But let's talk about the implications of it and where I actually see Pennsylvania going right now. Now, yesterday I released my projection for the Senate races as of September of 2021. I predicted that the Republican Party would retake the majority after the 2022 midterm elections, winning over Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, 2 states that are contested right now that currently have Republican senators, and then flipping Georgia and New Hampshire, 2 states that have Democratic senators right now, where I expect the Republicans to pick up those races as the race stands today. Now, understand the circumstances that we are in. Joe Biden is an unpopular president, around a 3-point difference here between those who disapprove of him and those who approve of him. That is much worse than where he was at the time of my last projection on August 7th, 2021, where he had around a plus 7-point advantage in terms of the overall net approval nationwide. Today, that's -3. That is a 10-point swing from just over a month. And you can see that the numbers were actually much better for Democrats back in this time period, back in August, even throughout the entirety of all of my projections. Never once did I say the Republicans were going to reclaim the majority until this time period. Donald Trump won't be necessarily the major forefront type of issue for 2022 if the election was held today. And a lot of things such as Afghanistan and a number of other things would be truly dominating the field and the resurgence of COVID-19, a lot of things that people view and will view as failures amongst the Biden administration, even if he's not directly at fault. You see, the Democratic talking point for Afghanistan and a number of things has been pushing it off to the blame of Donald Trump, to the blame of Barack Obama, to the blame of George W. Bush, and I do agree with that. If you're looking at it from a historical standpoint, all four of those presidents, even dating back to Ronald Reagan, were able to, in a sense, contribute to what we now know as the war in Afghanistan, to what we now know as something that is just a very painful thing to understand about the American political system, the way that we have international relations with countries around the world. Just looking at what is happening, while Joe Biden is receiving a lot of the blame, yes, there are former presidents who are to blame for a lot of what is happening right now. Donald Trump himself authorized this initial withdrawal in November of 2020 after he knew that he lost the election. But obviously, that is not what the American public is going to view, and that's why Joe Biden's approval rating is dipping, and while Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and other presidents' favorability ratings aren't really dipping, because the American public blames who is ever on the top. And that's exactly what happened in the 2020 presidential election. It happened in Pennsylvania, it happened in Michigan, it happened in Wisconsin, where these voters turned on President Trump because they blamed him for the mishandling of the pandemic. Now that the pandemic is starting to resurge even on vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals, that's when you're going to start to see the public disapprove of the way that they see Joe Biden, the way that they see other Democratic figures, and that's why Pennsylvania is the state that is going to, in my estimation right now, go towards the Republican Party. Now, Sean Parnell, tying back into this, what is his history, electorally speaking? Well, we actually have to do a little bit of a dive back into 2018. Conor Lamb became a notable name because he was the first House election, special election, in which Democrats picked up a race. They had a number of moral victories. They had Kansas's fourth race, where James Thompson came within 6 points. That race later went on in 2020 to win for the GOP by over 30 points. You had Georgia's 6th district. John Ossoff, you ring a bell, he ran for Congress, lost to Karen Handel by around 4 points. Tom Price won that race just a year prior, less than a year prior, actually 6-7 months prior, won that race by over 30 points. Montana had a very close House election across the state, decided by single digits. A number of races were close, but not enough that the Democratic Party was able to pick up a race until Pennsylvania's 18th district, in which Conor Lamb defeated Rick Saccone. Now, Donald Trump won here by 20 points in the 2016 election, so this was a monumental shift. Democrats were able to drive up turnout, and it was a major indicator of what was going to be a wave year. Conor Lamb won. Redistricting was forced by the courts in Pennsylvania. Then Conor Lamb was redistricted to the 17th district. He picked up that race for the Democratic Party. Conor Lamb won with 56% of the vote against another incumbent, because that's the way that the redistricting occurred, forced two incumbents to face off against each other. Keith Rothfuss got 44% of the vote. So ultimately, Conor Lamb won by over 12 points in this race. But then fast forward to 2020. The same district was up in 2020, and Conor Lamb won by just around 2 points. He was able to defeat Sean Parnell by 2.2% across the same district that he had won by over 12 points in the 2018 midterms. And I understand the national environment was much better for the Democratic Party, but that's a 10-point swing when the national popular vote only swung by around 5-6 points relative from 2018. So whether it was a combination of just a resurgence in support for Republicans in Pennsylvania because of President Trump, or it was Sean Parnell as an individual candidate, Sean Parnell probably isn't the best GOP nominee that could be propped up, but electorally speaking, at least he narrowed down a congressional district. And as of right now, with that Donald Trump endorsement, I do expect him to win that primary and potentially, and I have a very good chance of winning the general election. You know, looking at him as a candidate, he spoke at the RNC, he has some type of connection towards President Trump. He is essentially going to be the Pennsylvania version of Donald Trump. And while that may not have worked for Donald Trump himself on the national level, it still was a very close race. Donald Trump only lost Pennsylvania by 1.2%. He lost the state by just around, 60,000 votes or somewhere around there. I mean, looking at the state of Pennsylvania, it was a state that was decided by a very narrow margin, despite the polling data indicating that Joe Biden would have won Pennsylvania and was going to win Pennsylvania by 7-8 points. Donald Trump still came within a very close margin of winning in Pennsylvania, and it wasn't just there. Donald Trump's style of campaigning and rhetoric has worked in states like Pennsylvania. He was the first Republican to win Pennsylvania since 1988, since George H.W. Bush was president of the United States. Donald Trump did monumental things for the GOP in the state of Pennsylvania, and that will cross over into 2022. Now, I don't think that voters here, if it was the same electorate, would be inclined to back a Trump-style candidate, especially if they rejected Donald Trump himself on the ballot in 2020, but considering the way that Joe Biden is approved of right now, there isn't that energy on the Democratic side. The American public has turned away from Joe Biden. Joe Biden now holds less of the percentage in terms of the way that people approve of him than the vote that he got in 2020. He received 51.3% of the popular vote, yet has a 45.9% approval rating. That is a significant dip. That means there are voters there that willingly voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 election that now disapprove of him as president of the United States. And it's just fascinating to see. And in terms of the history of this individual Senate race, what does this mean? Why is it so competitive? It hasn't fluctuated outside of the lean tilt column for either party over the past 9 months that I've been projecting this Senate race. And there's a reason for that. We can actually take a look. In 2010, despite it being a very good year for the GOP, Republicans picked up 5 seats. Democrats lost 6. I believe an independent was able to pick up 1 in the state of Alaska. I believe that independent ended up caucusing with the Democratic Party, or actually, no. Sorry, that was Lisa Murkowski, I believe, in that race. So if we actually head over to it, I don't know why I thought that it was an independent. I know that there was at some point an independent that was running, Al Gross in 2020. I don't know why I was forgetting that. But besides the point, Democrats just did not have major wins in the Senate races in 2010. You can see here that they lost 6 seats, and in the state of Pennsylvania, it was a close race, but they lost by 2 points. Now, despite it being a bad year for the Democratic Party, Pennsylvania was close, but it was a race that Joe Sestak ultimately lost. Now, Pat Toomey actually ended up running in this race. There was a former Republican incumbent in this race. His name is Arlen Specter. If you want to see a little bit of an interesting history dive, if you don't know who that is, he actually gave Barack Obama and the Democratic Party their 60-seat majority they needed to get rid of the filibuster. Or not necessarily get rid of the filibuster, but go up and around the filibuster. You need 60 seats to end discussion and debate in order to vote on a bill in the United States Senate. And Democrats won 59 Senate races after the 2008 presidential election. Then a Republican, Arlen Specter from Pennsylvania, switched parties for the Democrats, decided to run for the Democratic nomination, and lost against Joe Sestak. Joe Sestak went on to lose against Pat Toomey. Pat Toomey being the Republican incumbent that we have today. Fast forward to 2016. Despite 2016 being a very good year for the Republican Party in Pennsylvania, he only won by 1.5%, which sort of tells me that had Hillary Clinton won Pennsylvania by maybe 2-3 points, Pat Toomey would not be in the United States Senate today. Katie McGinty might have ran behind Hillary Clinton, but Pat Toomey, as the incumbent in Congress, should have won more, should have outpaced President Trump, especially since Pennsylvania was a race where all the other states were shifting towards the right. Why didn't Pennsylvania? And it did shift towards the right, but it wasn't this overwhelming margin where I am thoroughly impressed. That's why this race has stayed within a consistent margin where it's pretty close, depending on the type of month that we're looking at for either political party. I can't imagine Pennsylvania moves over into the likely or safe column anytime soon. But in 2018, it did. But 2018 was also a very different time, and there was just a very popular Democratic incumbent. For this case, though, Pat Toomey and the Republicans in this open race aren't necessarily as popular as they'd like to be. But a lot of it is dependent on the popularity, not of themselves, but on President Joe Biden, on the way that he is perceived in time for the 2022 midterm elections. For the first time ever, he has been disapproved of for a very consistent period of time. He actually hit the low disapproval rating, or the high disapproval rating, around this point in time. Let's see officially when it crosses over, on August 30th, 2021. Today is September 4th, 2021. So you can see here that just for about 4 or 5 days now, it's been in the negative. Maybe Joe Biden will recover. I think he will recover in time for the 2022 midterms, but as it stands today, Republicans, I believe, have the advantage when it comes down to the Senate election in the state of Pennsylvania. And you can see here that on the on the political betting market, such as predicted.org, where you can see here, they ask which party will win the House in 2022. Republicans already have that advantage. And then you also take a look, let's see if we find the United States Senate. Now, Republicans have taken the advantage over the Democratic Party. Looking at the 90-day trend, though, Democrats have always had that lead. If you're looking at from the beginning of the insurrection time period, Democrats have maintained that lead over the GOP. But now the Republican Party is favored to win both the House and the Senate by those who use unbiased political thinking in order to funnel their own money into these races. They have personal investments by investing in which party they believe will win, and nobody wants to lose money. They have no incentive to try to lie in the market for anything. That is something that you do have to understand about political betting markets. Obviously, they aren't always accurate, but a lot of the times there are political analysts out there who want to make money by knowing how American politics works relative to other people, and they will funnel money into these individual races, and sometimes they will be lucky and win, sometimes they will be unlucky and not win. But a lot of it is just analytical thinking, and they will look at it from that point of view, which can provide some context about how other people believe this race is going to go. All in all, right now, Pennsylvania, I wouldn't be too confident if I was a Democrat looking at this race. If I was someone within the DNC trying to make an argument here, Donald Trump endorsing Sean Parnell pretty much tells us exactly who we know is going to be the GOP nominee. Sean Parnell will more than likely be that GOP nominee, and it looks like either Connor Lamb or John Fetterman are going to be the Democrats here. So the Democratic Party needs to start ramping up their campaign. They need to start building up that rapport with the voters where they can actually go in there and say, you know who I am. This is the lieutenant governor. This is a special election winner. This is someone who has served in the House, a very outspoken member of the House floor over the past year, maybe because he was running for Senate, whatever it might be. There are clips there. There is a lot there that the Democratic Party can work with, because we know now that the Republican nominee is 90% going to be Sean Parnell, unless there's some type of major scandal that plagues him, and Donald Trump will still likely follow through with that endorsement. But all in all, in this Senate election, it is amongst one of the closest ones in 2022, and Democrats need to recognize that right now, they're down. Right now, they aren't doing so well in this race. And it will all come down to the approval rating of Joe Biden and the way that the public perceives both Sean Parnell, Connor Lamb, or John Fetterman. But the Democratic Party needs to be going on the offense at this point in time, because it's no longer a state that they should be comfortable about, but if anything, should be extremely worried about, because it's an easy opportunity that they won't get till 6 years from now that they need to take and pounce on right now if they are to win it in 2022. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2022 Senate election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.